In the 1950s, the fictional town of Malgudi represented the beating heart of traditional India. Life here moved at the speed of a conversation. People stopped to talk politics on the street corners, and the community operated on deep, unspoken rhythms. At the center of this world sits Nataraj, the owner of a local printing press. His shop serves as a neighborhood sanctuary, a place where a poet and a journalist gather daily to debate philosophy and share the simple joys of an unhurried life. The physical layout of Nataraj's press is highly deliberate. A blue curtain hangs in the shop, acting as a gentle physical barrier. It separates the public, transactional front room from the quiet inner workspace where the actual printing takes place. By maintaining this boundary, Nataraj preserves a specific moral harmony. The press reflects a society that values ritual, patience, and the preservation of a slow-paced order, qualities that have allowed this traditional way of life to endure for generations. Then, a man named Vasu arrives in town. Vasu is a taxidermist, and he is the exact opposite of everything Malgudi values. He is aggressive, he is highly agitated, and entirely driven by profit. He operates with a distinct colonial entitlement, treating everyone around him as resources to be exploited. Without asking for permission, Vasu simply moves into the empty attic above Nataraj's printing press. He shoves past the blue curtain, ignoring the boundaries of the shop, and transforms the space into a gruesome workshop filled with stuffed trophies and chemical preservatives. The peaceful atmosphere of the press is suddenly choked by the stench of rotting carcasses and tanning fluids. This is a direct physical clash between Malgudi's quiet traditions and Vasu's violent modern brutality. Nataraj tries to dish him to leave, but he fails. Because Nataraj operates entirely on politeness and passive goodness, he lacks the means to fight back against someone who recognizes no social boundaries and refuses to follow the rules of the community. Soon, Vasu's exploitation spills out of the attic and into the surrounding Mempi Hills. He begins poaching wildlife at an alarming rate, shooting neighborhood pets, and terrorizing the locals with his massive physical strength and complete lack of empathy. Vasu explicitly tells Nataraj that he views the world as the rind of a dried-up orange. To him, the universe holds no spiritual value. It is merely raw material waiting to be harvested, stuffed, and sold to the highest bidder. In the ancient Hindu texts, there is a specific word for a being like this, a Rakshasa, or a demon. A Rakshasa is an entity that acquires immense physical power and intelligence, but recognizes no moral restraints and ignores the laws of both man and God. The townspeople of Malgudi watch this unfold with helpless anxiety. They are unequipped to handle this level of aggression. They complain and they worry, but no one can physically stop him. Vasu's presence has expanded into an oppressive weight on the town. His refusal to acknowledge any local custom has effectively paralyzed Malgudi, leaving its people to wonder if their way of life has any defense against a man who simply takes whatever he wants. This tension peaks when the town prepares for a major religious festival, an event centered around the local temple elephant, Kumar. Kumar is a beloved creature. To the people of Malgudi, he is a living symbol of their faith, their culture, and their collective history. Vasu looks at the sacred elephant and sees a massive paycheck. He casually reveals his plan to sit at his attic window with a rifle, assassinate Kumar during the holy procession, and harvest his ivory and legs for umbrella stands. To Vasu, Kumar is just industrial scrap. To Malgudi, killing the elephant means the physical destruction of a living god. If a rifle can silence a centuries-old tradition, then the material world has won. On the night of the festival, the crowds gather, the music swells, and Nataraj spirals into deep despair. He paces his shop, listening for the gunshot. He knows exactly what is about to happen, but he is a printer, not a fighter. Which leaves us with a difficult question. In a world built on passive goodness and the avoidance of conflict, how can anyone survive a physically dominant force of evil? The next morning, the sun rises over Malgudi. The festival has ended peacefully. Kumar the elephant is unharmed, and up in the attic, Vasu the taxidermist is found dead. Nataraj and the townspeople didn't band together to kill him. Vasu was waiting by the window with his rifle when a mosquito landed on his forehead. Using his massive, hammer-like fist, He slapped the bug with so much force that he shattered his own skull and died instantly. This resolution mirrors the myth of Bhasmasura, a Rakshasa granted the power to turn anyone he touched into ashes. But he was tricked into touching his own head, destroying himself. Vasu's fate follows this logic. His immense strength became the weapon of his own demise. This academic analysis of the novel highlights the parallel R.K. Narayan was drawing. As Nataraj's assistant Sastri explains, every demon appears invincible, but carries within him a tiny hidden seed of self-destruction. You do not always need a violent hero to defeat a monster. By its very nature, an ego-driven, unchecked power is unstable. If given enough time, it will eventually consume itself. With Vasu gone, the stench clears from the act. The blue curtain is rehung, and the printing press resumes. What initially looked like Malgudi's greatest weakness, its passive traditional nature, actually proved to be its ultimate survival strategy. The town simply endured. Vasu was allowed temporary disruption. He left no lasting mark on the community. Meanwhile, the slow-paced life of Malgudi operates on a deep, cyclical rhythm that easily absorbed the shock of his presence. Aggression will always try to force its way into the world, but the universe survives because those forces are inherently self-destructive. Long after the demons have struck themselves down, the quiet resilience of tradition and moral order will remain.